Welcome to another Ask Derek edition of the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast.
Do you have questions about launching and growing your online business?
He's got answers. Just ask Derek.
No BS, no fluff, no hype. Just straight answers to your questions.
Now, here's your host, Derek Gehl.
Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast, Ask Derek edition. This is also a video podcast, so again, if you're listening to this on iTunes or on SoundCloud or on your iPod or your iPhone or whatever that may be, you can also watch the video of this and see my smiling face on YouTube or on entrepreneurignited.com/podcast. Alternatively, if you're watching this video right now, you can also get these as a podcast on iTunes or on SoundCloud or on entrepreneurignited.com. So there you go. Now, today's edition of Ask Derek, I want to talk about expired domains. And this is a question I had a few times over the last month, and that was, why should what are the benefits of using an expired domain? And when I'm registering a domain for my business, should I be looking to grab an expired domain? So what I want to first what I want to do is I want to explain, what am I talking about when I say expired domains? If you've never heard of that, basically what expired domains are domains that you're grabbing just as they are expiring, before they're being released back into the wild, or you're snapping them up literally just as they expire so that they don't actually expire. And there's some benefits to this. There's some pros and there are some cons to this. Okay, so again, effectively expired domains are registering a domain that someone else previously owned the minute it expires, or buying it just before it expires. And there's different ways to do that. Okay, so what are the pros and cons of expired domain names? Well, the pros, first of all, when you are starting a new website, one of the factors that will influence quite significantly your rankings in Google, especially right out of the gate, is your domain age. When you register a brand new domain name that's never been registered before, hasn't been registered for a long time, and it's been available for a long time, your domain age is going to be starting at 0. Alternatively, if somebody has a domain that they've been sitting on for maybe 10 years, for example, and it's just been sitting there, maybe not doing a lot, maybe it had a website or had just a page parked there, but it was registered, that's going to increase the domain age. And so that's a factor that Google looks at. So when you grab an expired domain, you immediately get increased domain age forever, however long it's been registered for, which is going to help you rank faster. Because with new domains, Google has kind of a bit of a, let's call it a sandbox, where they're trying to figure out, what's this website about, right? Where should we rank it? And so you're kind of put in this sandbox as a new domain, so it takes a little while to gain that momentum. But when you grab an expired domain, you can skip that sandbox because it's already has domain age. Okay, our next pro is backlinks. If you go out and grab an expired domain that had a website sitting on it that somebody had been going after or had been building and had been marketing in the past, there may already be backlinks out there. So if you go out and you put up a website, you recreate the pages those links were coming to, so they're not just hitting 404 pages. So you're redirecting them using 301s to current relevant pages, or just building those pages up. What you can do is effectively grab the link juice that was coming to that old website. And again, on top of the domain age, now you're actually getting backlinks right out of the gate. That's why when you go to a lot of these expiring domain auctions, like the GoDaddy's on GoDaddy and on expired domains and stuff like that, what you'll find is these domains that are expiring, but they have a good link profile, they have a bunch of backlinks. In many cases, those will sell for hundreds of dollars instead of the typical $20, because people know that if you grab something that has domain age, already has backlinks, you can get that ranked so much faster than starting with a completely fresh domain like I did with Entrepreneur Ignited. And so there's a lot of SEO benefit to grabbing that expired domain. And with that as well, if you grab an expired domain that does have backlinks from other authority websites, it can give you some instant traffic as well. The question you have to ask yourself, though, is that traffic, is it really interested in what I have? Is it really targeted? Do they think they're going to someone else's site that used to own this? And if that's the case, well, maybe that's not huge. But if it's in a similar niche and it's targeted visitors and you can find that gem, you can get that immediate targeted traffic off of that. And so, this is why when people go out and build personal blog networks, for example. So a personal blog network is a network of blogs that they own all over different web hosts and stuff like that. They build up so they can create their own backlinks. They buy expired domains because effectively they're already buying authority. So they don't have to work as hard to build that authority. And so that's it. It gives you a real jump start in your search rankings with Google. But there are some cons to this that you need to be aware of, because I don't want you to watch this video, run off to GoDaddy's expired domain auction, buy the very first domain you see that's expiring that looks good, because there's other things that you have to take into consideration. So for example, the history of the domain. Some domains they have a bad history, okay? There were sites that were in markets that have been penalized by Google, have been sandboxed by Google. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story here. Yannick Silver and I, a few years back, I co-hosted his Underground online seminar with him. And when we were building this up, we decided, hey, let's go out and let's find a brand, a domain to build this under, and this sort of theme that we were doing. So we went out and we found this domain, undergroundx.com, all right? Undergroundx.com. And we had a really, this badass domain. And so we registered it, and we set up the site, and away we went. And then we started to get people saying to us, hey, I'm trying to access your website from my office or from a corporate network, and they couldn't get to it. And we're like, well, what's that about? And that's why it's something twigged, and I went back into archive.org, and I went, what did this domain used to be? Well, it turns out it was a porn site. And so a lot of the corporate networks and filters and stuff that block adult sites were blocking our site because it used to be an adult website. So again, you want to go and check and make sure it wasn't an adult website, a porn website, or something like that. Because you can't shake that history off the domain all that easy. So before you spend good money on it, you want to make sure you take care of that, all right? So the other thing that you need to be very conscious of is penalties. If there was a website there, and I mean the fact is over the past decade, there's been a lot of guys that they create these websites, they blast them with tons of crappy links, those websites got penalized and they just abandoned the domain, and all of a sudden that domain's coming available and people get excited, they go out and register it, but it actually has a really bad link profile. And it may have penalties against it. And one way to tell is to literally just go and see, okay, what is the Google page rank or the Moz rank of this domain name? Because I can see it has, I may see it has backlinks, right? So before I ever buy a domain, let me take a step back here. Before I ever buy an expired domain, I'll go over to Majestic SEO and I'll type it in just using their free service, and I'll see its link profile. And I'll see its trust flow and its citation flow, and I'll see how many backlinks it has in the Majestic database. And if I see it has a whole bunch of backlinks in there, but then I find out it has 0 page rank and it's been around for a long time, there's a very good chance there's a penalty against it, and those aren't good links. And if you look at the trust flow and the citation flow in Moz, in Majestic SEO, in their free tool, you'll quickly see that if they're good links or bad links, right? So you want to make sure that you're not getting a domain that Google's already penalized, because you don't want to be responsible for trying to clean that up. And if it's being penalized, you're already losing all of these benefits under the pros column, so domain age, backlinks, and traffic. So that's another con. And our last con is mistaken expiry. And, I know there's people out there that might look at this as a pro, but, at the end of the day, sometimes people let domains expire accidentally. And if you jump on it and grab it, could you effectively blackmail them and try and sell it back to them? Yes, Is that the right thing to do? I don't believe so. Most people are small businesses, so you want to make sure that you're not grabbing a domain that expired for a real business. And I'll tell you a story. I mean, I live here in British Columbia, and my wife Coraline, she grew up in a really small town in the interior of British Columbia called Barrier. And it was just 2 weeks ago, we were reading the newspaper, and the Barrier Chamber of Commerce, so that's like the city of Barrier, accidentally let their domain expire. And I mean, that's a high authority domain. It belonged to effectively a city. And so it got snapped up by a network of adult sites. And now when you go to the Barrier Chamber of Commerce website, it's a adult website. And they're using the domain age, the backlink, stuff like that to get traffic, which I think is ridiculous. But you don't want to go out there and grab somebody's domain that they're trying to run a business, and then they're going to want their domain back, okay? And so the moral of that story as well was the city reached out to this adult company that owned the domain now, and said, hey, we want it back. And they're now trying to extort $9,000 out of them to get that domain name back, which in my books, that's not cool. So don't grab domain names that belong to other legitimate businesses. What you're looking for with expired domains are good quality domains that belong to people that decided that they were no longer going to pursue it and they're letting it expire. Your goal is to grab those domains and to continue the momentum they've already created with the domain age and the backlinks, and to start getting that ranked in Google. So there you go. That was a crash course in expired domains, and this has been another episode of the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast, Ask Derek Video Edition. If you like what you hear, leave us a thumbs up on iTunes. Share this with your friends. If you're listening to this on iTunes, make sure you leave us a rating and a review, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to another info-packed episode of the Entrepreneur Ignited podcast with Derek Gehl.
For links to all of the resources plus an entire transcript of this episode, go to entrepreneurignited.com/podcast.
Make sure you never miss another episode. Subscribe now on iTunes or SoundCloud.